Is that how you pronounce that correctly?
Enos.
Enos.
Enos. Mm-hmm.
All right. She is our speaker today. I'm going to read a little bio of her, and then we're going to let her talk about being a woman leader, and then open it up to questions. I like to get things started on time and end on time so everybody can get back to their life. So let me get started. Melissa was elected to City Council in 2020, has been an active member of the Goose Creek community since her dad received his final duty station at the city's Naval Weapons Station in 1981. She spent her formative years admiring his 30 years of service. She said of her father, she joined South Carolina WIL in 2024 as our Low Country Outreach Director. Councilmember Enos began a lifelong pursuit of servitude at 14 when she was hired as a candy striper at Trident Hospital after graduating from Goose Creek High School in 1996. She immediately joined the U.S. Navy as a boatswain mate and served aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, CVN 69, the first combat vessel to allow women on board, beginning in 1994. After completing one term and serving her commitment, she returned home to Goose Creek. After completing cosmetology school and managing her first salon, she was ready to advance her business and education and enrolled in Trident Technical College. During that time, she was fortunate enough to be offered the opportunity to join Phi Theta Kappa, the International Honor Society of two-year colleges. Phi Theta Kappa helped to further develop and nurture a love of serving others, and Councilmember Enos would have become heavily involved in this philanthropic chapter, which did extensive research to identify the needs in their community, and their turn that research into a plan of action. She earned 2 degrees at Trident Technical College in small business and entrepreneurship and management, leadership, and development. During that time, she was elected chapter president of Alpha Epsilon Omicron's local chapter. The following year, she was elected as the Carolinas regional president of Phi Theta Kappa, where she presided over 81 two-year colleges in North and South Carolina. Phi Theta Kappa taught her to truly listen to the community and to do research on how to contribute effectively. She said, I believe it's not enough to simply be the voice of change, but you have to be the ears of the community too. After graduating, Councilmember Enos brought her first salon, one of the benefits of her business and the connection she makes with the community every day. She finds herself in a unique position to be the ear of the people in the city. On a daily basis, she listens to things that they want to change in a wide range of categories. After the former cop stop coordinator for the Goose Creek Police Department and one of the founders, she extended that service still to the people who serve her daily while offering aid and coordinating other events for the police department. Enos is a mother of 3, Nate 24, Colin 20, and Weston 11. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. That was long.
That's okay. We never say that about men's bios, so let's not say it about women's bios.
I would say that about covered it. That was it. You said everything. Mm-hmm. I was probably gonna cover why I ran. I feel like that's probably the most important thing, because I did not have any idea really what city council was when I ran for city council. I have been a lifetime volunteer my entire life. I was raised sort of that way. I have 7 sisters and 2 very active parents in the community, everywhere that we've lived. And so our parents always raised us to sort of whatever blessings we had, we were supposed to give back to the community. So our family were lifetime volunteers. And I was a single parent for 14 years with 3 boys. And my boys were very rambunctious. They were not tolerant of a lot of leadership. They were not very respectful of other males. And when I moved back to Goose Creek, it made me very nervous, as active as our police department was, what might happen if my 2 older children had an encounter with the police department. So I went to my local police department to find out any ways I could get my 2 older boys that are very strong-minded. They're very, very loud personality, especially my oldest one. Just to kind of know the police officers. I wanted the police officers to know my kids to know police officers. And so I went to them, and our police chief had been our police chief for 30 something years. Our mayor had been our mayor for 30 something years. Our administration had been our administration for 30 plus years. And nobody was really interested in any sort of bridging a gap between our police department and the constituents to which they protect and serve. So I did some national research, and there was a program called Cop Stop, which was a program that bridged the gap between police officers and their community. And I reached out to her. Her name is Joanna Young. She is the creator of Cop Stop nationally, and she helped me build one in Goose Creek. I needed administrative support, which I did not really get. But the mayor at that time said, it's not going to work. You're not going to have people open up their homes and have police officers come in their homes. That program was sort of a feeding. You had volunteers in your city that would make a home cooked meal, and you would feed all of your on-duty police officers once a week. And our mayor and our police chief were pretty certain it was not going to work. So I did not have a lot of support. What I did have support from was the community. And so I went out into the community and I found volunteers, and I did a schedule for a year and was very active with the police officers, who were very appreciative that they were able to be in their community. And people in the community in different neighborhoods saw police cars, and they saw police officers out playing basketball with kids in the neighborhood. And so it sort of made police officers more approachable. People saw the police officers were people outside of their uniforms. They weren't these scary people. There was this sort of understanding that people in like grocery stores would look at their kids and say, you see that police officer over there? If you don't act right, I'm going to have them, come over here and arrest you. And we're like, no. They're not, police officers are not parents, and they're not bad guys. So just sort of bridging that gap was really important to me. And so now we've had that program for 7 years. It's been really, really successful. We still have it in our state. We only have it in the city of Hanahan and in the city of Goose Creek. If anybody in any cities are interested in it, it's super easy to start up. Shortly after that, we did get a new police chief. She came from Georgia in the Atlanta area, and her niche is in supervision and training. She's very involved in her community. She's been extremely supportive, and she is who encouraged me to run for city council. She came to me and asked me to run, and I laughed a lot. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a single mom that does hair. I'm a hairdresser. All of our city council members are like bankers and attorneys, and like, what? I do hair. And she said, yeah, we need people like you that care about public safety, that care about your community. And the first thing I said is, I'm not qualified, and I don't have enough education, and I don't have enough experience. And she said, do you care about your community? And I said, absolutely. She said, you're qualified. It's all you need to be qualified. Do you care about your community? Do you care about the people that live there? Yes. She said, then you're qualified. Later on, I met the mayor of Hanahan, Christy Rainwater, and she has this great story about being a mom. And if you can manage a bunch of children's personalities and their schedules, also you are qualified. So that's her story always. But I was scared to run because I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know anything about the election commission. I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know where to even start. I didn't know what to do. And so I got on the internet and I Googled, and I found a book to teach me how to do it. It was a little small, teeny tiny book that said how to win a local election in your town. And I followed the directions. I wish I knew about this organization. I don't think the toolkit was around yet, but boy, would have been helpful. I ran in my city. We're at large. We were not districted. So we had 3 seats available. 5 people ran, and 3 women were running. And one of the other women that ran was an incumbent, and she pointed out in our first open forum that all 3 women were veterans. And that sort of stuck. It sort of stuck as this coalition of these 3 women running. We did not mean to run together. We were not like block running, or we didn't mean to run as 3 veteran women running together. That was never like what we tried to do. It's just what the community heard, and they loved it. The community said, hey, we're a bunch of women and we don't have women representing us. And when we go to the city with quality of life issues that we want brought up in city council, those things are always overlooked. And we feel like women will bring more quality of life policies to the table. So the first things people always asked me was I a Republican or a Democrat? And I sit in a nonpartisan seat, but they don't care. They want to know if you're Republican or Democrat, because they want to know where your moral compass sits. I found being elusive did not serve me well. I tried to be elusive. That did not serve me well. So people wanted to know who I was. So I told people who I was. I don't fit in a box, but I told people who I was. And then people wanted to know where I lived. There are 2 really affluent neighborhoods in our city, and the majority of our city council live in those 2 neighborhoods. And the rest of the city wanted to know that they would be served, even though we're not districted. So it didn't matter where I lived. And they wanted to know if I supported the current mayor. Those were the 3 biggest questions that I got. People did not ask me about sidewalks, roads, public safety, water, utilities, lights, schools, crosswalks. People didn't ask me about the things that we do and don't legislate. And I fell in 2020 during a general election. Typically, city council runs in a grassroots election, like in April or a weird month. And they had pushed us into 2020. So typically I would have only needed like 600 votes. I needed 6,600 to get a seat. I would have only needed to raise about $600. I needed to raise 6,000. So it was a very different election for me. And luckily my city will never do that again. They pulled us back out of, so now we're in every other year in odd years. So I will have a very different election next year. Otherwise I would have had to have ran this year again. But I did get an extra year, so I won't run again until 2025. But I decided to run the last day. It closed, I want to say April 1st at noon. And I walked into the election commission office at like 11:01 and paid $50. And I was scared to death. But I prayed about it and I thought about it and I got my family together. And I thought, even if I don't get elected, this journey will teach me so much and give me a network and give me opportunities that maybe I don't even know are around. And so I did it, and I learned more than any college could ever teach me, any course could ever teach me. I learned so much. And it turns out that people will let any old riffraff run your town because they elected me. This is crazy. But and I did know a lot of people. I've been here for a long time, but just because I can do your hair or I went to high school with you does not mean that you think I can legislate for you. So just because I knew people did not mean that I had it in the bag. What worked for me, I knocked on doors. I knocked on doors and I knocked on doors and I knocked on doors. So I know now where I spent money that didn't work, and I know where I spent money that did work. And people care about knowing you. They care about shaking your hand. They care about seeing your face. Even if they don't talk to you, even if they just see your face, or they know that you came to their door. And I ran in 2020 during COVID when nobody opened their door. When I had to yell at their door, I'm not selling anything, I swear. So, because people were not opening their doors. So it was really, really difficult for me to even have conversations with people. And though debates and open forums are handy, the people that come to those, they pretty much have already decided who they're voting for. So those aren't really decision makers. It's really pulling election information, not knocking on doors of people that aren't going to vote anyway, and meeting people. People want to know you, and they want to know that you care about the things that they care about, or that you have common ground that they have on, that you can be the voice that they can't be. That's what people care about, and that will get people out to vote for you. And I didn't know that at the time. I learned that along the way, but that was pretty much it. And I was shocked that I won, but I did.
You said two very important things that all women usually say when they're asked to run, "I'm not qualified." Because, yeah, or I don't have time. You know, men don't tend to say that, but we have been conditioned to say, I don't have time, I'm not qualified, I don't fit in, whatever. We will think of ways of why we can't do it and just saying we can do it. And I love the fact that you realize that you can do stuff if you've got the right back. And what did you learn running as a woman that you don't think was a bit of an obstacle, but you overcame it?
People want women to run. I thought I was going to hit more. No, I did not get administrative support, and people that are already in politics is very different than voters. Mm-hmm. So once I was elected, it was very difficult to find my way. Especially not so much within my city, but we do have to work with Berkeley County. I have to work with the school board, and I have to work with state house and senators, and they're still not female friendly. And at the time, there were no women on Berkeley County Council, 0. Mm-hmm. So it was very much a good old boys, like, oh, why don't you sit there and look pretty and fix your lipstick? That was shocking to me, because I haven't been treated like that in more than 20 years when I was in the Navy. And I was treated like that in the Navy too, but 6 months of like working really hard and putting my head down and just working earned me respect. So I was shocked that people still behave that way. But what shocked me was people wanted me to run. They want women to run. They want women elected. Voters and constituents want women in seats. And those are the people that matter. Those are the people that have the power. Those are the people that have votes. So it's important to authentically always be yourself. I learned that really easily. I ran with a lot of people. One of the girls that I ran with was terrified of publicly speaking. And your best bet always is to authentically, genuinely be you. People vote because you're you. So be you, because that is your best selling point, is being you. Uniquely, genuinely you. Don't sell things that you don't know. If you don't know, just tell people, you'll find out. Being authentically, genuinely you, and learning that people do want women in leadership. They do. Even men trust that women are influencers. We do more work. Not always, but we tend to undervalue ourselves and underestimate our abilities. And even men in corporate America and men in leadership positions know that we tend to do more work and are very valuable.
We are, absolutely. Women, I really feel like women in your position that don't come from affluence have a better pulse, know what the pulse is in the community. And those people, as you say, sit in their nice, expensive homes and nice, expensive neighborhoods and don't have any clue as to what actually is going on in the neighborhoods around them. We do have a question. Did you get the question, who will take care of your children if you become city councilwoman?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Did you
So I took my kids with me. So I took care of my kids. So if I was able to, there wasn't anything I couldn't take my children to. Granted, I didn't have a baby, but in 2020, my youngest was 7. So I did have like a little one. And I took him everywhere with me. I knocked on doors with him. I have pictures of him in his little league football gear with my signs. He helped me drop off signs. I took him everywhere with me. And if I couldn't, like, if it was something that I needed like help with, I had a family member come with me, or because I did not have an active, like, I had a boyfriend. And we were newly dating, so at the time he wasn't like coming to stuff with me, but like I had like my sisters or friends or people that would support me and say, oh well, when you get up to speak or whatever, like I'll keep an eye on them or whatever. I very rarely needed childcare because I took him everywhere with me. He is my children are part of who I am, so they are part of my core, so they are part of me running. They're part of everything that I do. There isn't anything, there is no open forum, there is no city council meeting, workshop, there is nothing that I go to that they can't come with me.
Right. And nobody would ask a man that question.
No.
You hear their children. Because they assume it's
I'll up with a man at any of those events, people would dote on him and think what a great father he was.
Yeah, exactly.
For bringing their child and exposing their child. And we jokingly, like in my city, everybody knows my youngest son, they call him the mayor of Whoville because he literally walks around and shakes people's hands, introduces himself to people. So,
my mother was on city council for 20 something years in Beaufort County, South Carolina, in the city of Beaufort. And my father had a sign, a label, pen made up that says Donnie's husband, because he was the one that was well known. And oh, you're Donnie's husband. And I always had one made say, oh, you're Donnie's daughter, because I went everywhere. I was Donnie's daughter. And your children will get that as you continue to thrive and go on. And I finally got to flip that on my own children at the university here, because I know everybody. And they said, oh, you're Trisha's son.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun when you can do that and mess with your kids that way. But in the political realm, one of the things that I like to ask women is, was there someone who helped you get through those difficult times of where, honey, just go sit there and put your lipstick on and don't worry about anything?
Yeah. So luckily for me, I was elected with 2 other women, and shortly right before I was elected, we got a new city administrator that was also a female, and had previously been a man. My police chief was previously a man, now a female. Our administration had shifted in like 18 months from where you couldn't even walk into the conference room. Like it was the boys club. Like you could not walk into the conference room, to they're outnumbered. So anytime I had a situation that I wasn't sure how to navigate it, I wasn't sure what to say or how to handle myself, I had a group of women that I could go to. One of our city council members, because now my city council is a majority female, there's 4 women and 3 men. And Deborah has been there for 14 years, and she is a fantastic mentor. So she's a great person for me to go to and ask when I come up with these situations, how do I deal with them? Because I tend to be quick to open my mouth. Because that's how I've always been. I've always been allowed to speak my mind and it be fine. And what was interesting to me in this particular job, and I've had many, many jobs, many, being in college and many leadership positions. And I've always had a loud personality. What I found interesting in this particular field, anybody that goes into any political, even if you're an appointed seat or you're elected or you're a city clerk or you're an admin in any sort of political realm, is everyone you come across in this industry has a loud personality. So I 9 times out of 10 had always been the loudest personality in a room. I'm one of the quietest personalities in a room because everybody is politicking. Everybody is sort of politicking in a room. So it was definitely a style shift for me to how I carry myself, how I speak to people, what I'm allowed to say, what I'm not allowed to say, what I should be careful what I say, how what I say is really important and carries more weight. Sometimes people say things flippantly, especially in my field. I've been a hairdresser for 23 years. And the majority of my job is, which I'm sure all of you have a hairdresser, right? You've all been to a hairdresser, and there is something very comfortable about sitting in your hairdresser's chair and you just kind of share stuff. And so a large part of my job is to just listen to my clients. And then we openly share. It's very much, I genuinely believe in relationships. I genuinely put into my relationships and relationship building. And there's some stuff I'm not allowed to say. I can at work, but not in city council. So it's definitely like being careful what I say and how I say it. That's been the hardest part. Because a man in any other realm telling me to sit down and fix my lipstick and why don't you just sit there, honey, and be cute? How I would respond to that male outside of politics is very different to how I would respond to that man inside of somebody that I have to have a relationship and work with to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am not quiet, and I do respond. Because there's appropriate and inappropriate. And one thing I will always tell any woman I ever come across, really anybody, but especially women, is you teach people how to treat you. And it's your job to teach people how to treat you. And so the minute that you allow somebody to treat you in a less than situation, you've just allowed somebody to treat you that way. So in the most respectful manner, I let people know that I expect a certain amount of treatment, and I will treat you with that same amount of respect and dignity.
Emily says, do you think you will be able to talk about local issues more or be asked more about them when you run for re-election? Or are you expecting the same kind of questions about your party and address?
Oh, I hope people ask me about local things. Part of MASC, which MASC is our municipal association to which all municipalities, like our umbrella to which we function under. Part of the reason why they're moving us into odd years is so that we do have more focus, because when you put us in even years and you put us with partisan people and you put us in presidential elections, people don't care about us. They don't know what we do. They have no idea what we do. And we're your purest form of government. We are the closest form of government to you. Your everyday needs, we govern, and people don't even know that. People don't go to city council meetings. They don't put their 2 cents. They don't even know. They don't know that they're allowed to come to a city council meeting and say, this is an issue that I have. Could somebody please do something about it? So I do feel like putting us in odd years gives us a little more exposure, and hopefully people understand what we do, and we are able to talk about more local things, because a lot of the questions that we get, a lot of it has to do with traffic and roads, and most municipalities, all of that I know of, roads are county and state. And people hate that answer. They hate us saying that's county or state, and they feel like we're passing the buck. But we don't have a roads and bridges budget. So we don't do roads and bridges. But other than that, people don't ask us about utilities. They don't ask us about public safety. They don't ask us about fire departments, policemen, supervision and training. I mean, they will ask us salacious things like about defunding police. They'll ask us about, like, you know, how do I feel about George Floyd in 2020? They will ask us salacious things. They'll ask me about abortion and Social Security, things I don't govern, things that I don't write legislation or policy writing for. But they won't ask me about things I actually write legislation for. And the big things that women have had a contribution for in our last like 3 years, and these are silly arguments that we have in our city, but like one of the biggest things that we've had in our city was like legalizing chickens, like having chickens in the city, right? Like counties are allowed to have chickens, and people in the city are like, with the price of eggs and with property rights, and why can't I have 4 chickens to lay eggs? And pre-4 women, it was always no. And I am happy to say that in the city of Goose Creek now you can have 4 hens. But it's sort of quality of life things like that that are hard to pass. Road things are hard to pass, and the city of Goose Creek is one of the few cities that we have a road hump program now. And our mayor was reluctant at first because he did not want to be in the road business. He's like, I don't want to be in the road business. But I believe, as most women believe, we're in the safety business. And we have vehicles that drive in neighborhoods where the speed limit's 25 and our kids don't have sidewalks to ride on. They're walking in the street to go to school. And there's an urban program out of Columbia, and it was hard to adopt and get money for, and it took 18 months, but we got it, and we have it in our city now. So, and it does a little bit put us in the road business, but these are the kind of things that women will take on that men will not take on. They will not take these things on. They want to do things how, and I'm not saying all men, I love responsible, accountable men in general. Men do not want to take on, they're very much like, let's do things how we've always done things. They're not like, you know what, we're supposed to be young and fresh and do things differently. Let's do things differently. We just built a brand new inclusive park in our city and last year, and we had a very, in my opinion, culturally insensitive decision that was getting made about wanting to put a small background in this playground. Where this playground was getting built was a church that had been built by one of the first freed slaves, and he had built this church, and it was burnt down in 1977. And there's a historical marker there, and his name is Casey, and the building that was there was named after him. And they were building this park, and they were going to put a pirate ship right where this building stood. And it felt culturally insensitive to me to put a symbol of like rape and pillage where a freed Black man's church had once stood. And though not everybody would feel that way, this pirate ship was $100,000 that probably in a few years our Goose Creek NAACP would want pulled out, and it would cost taxpayers money to pull back out. So how about let's not do a very like cheesy sort of Charlestown Landing, Myrtle Beach, everybody's done pirate ships kind of thing. Like, the military built this town. Why don't we do like a submarine, or we do something like that more fits our town, not something cheesy and culturally insensitive? And you wouldn't think that would have been a fight. You wouldn't have thought that would have been a fight. And it was a little bit of a fight. It's a fight that we won, but I was shocked I even had to bring that up. But these are the kind of things that women make a difference. We matter. We have a voice. Our voice matters, and our voice reflects the people that we serve.
Anyone else have questions? Feel free to either unmute yourself or type it into the message, the chat area, because therefore I can read it. Go ahead, Amy.
I'd love to ask a question. Thanks, Melissa. This has been so informative. So I hear a lot of what you're saying is these are the things that people ask me that are not helpful. And what I'd love to know, again, coming from that educator mind is, okay, how can we help people in our cities and municipalities ask the right questions? Because sometimes knowing the question to ask is really, really important, but just don't know how to ask it. So what would be a list of like your top 3 things you wish people had asked you?
I really wish people would have asked, locally. I wish people would ask me things that locally affect them, which are 9 times out of 10 public safety and economic growth and development issues. And they are policies that are easily adjustable. And then like small business is huge. And for instance, like when I ran, my platform was built on my body of work. I ran on public safety as being a cop stop coordinator, and I ran on economic growth and development. I've been a business owner in the city for 19 years, and we had a ton of red tape. We had a particular board that lots of people have an ARB board, and if you have standards already put in place and you have a really good staff, ARB is very it would hold up business. People would come in, and we didn't have a list of standards because our ordinances hadn't been updated since 1985. So people would be like, well, I don't like that color, or I don't like that paint type. And now you would have to wait 30 days. So now you're a business owner with an overhead, and you have to wait 30 days before you can come back to ARB. So we were not business friendly. We were holding up business, and people didn't even know that city council governed things like that. So they didn't even know. They were going down to the licensing department asking questions, but city council writes those policies, and they didn't even know that those things could be changed, or they could come in and say, hey, this isn't really working for me, or this is causing me a problem, or I'm sitting here with a business that I can't open. Is there something that you could do to make this easier for me? So things that really affect people's everyday life, I wish people would ask us, and they don't know that we govern it. And like part of what we do in our city is in our water bill, because we still have a lot of older people. Our community was built on older people. We have a lot of younger people now, but they're not people on the internet. They're not on social media. So we still, in your old paper water bill, we still put a flyer in there, and we put things that city council does govern. We do put we put where you can go and our meeting times and the things that and listen, you can come to city council and you can get up and talk about whatever you want to talk about. We don't have you can get up and say you have a new website, or you can talk about a book. You can really talk about whatever you want to talk about, because that's your right. We serve you, and people don't know that. I work for the people that live here. That's who I work for, and people don't know that. So I think letting people know what we do, and then giving them the opportunity to ask us anything that affects their daily life.
What do you wish? Yeah. What do you wish you had known before you ran?
Oh gosh. I wish I would have known where to spend my money. It was actually not as hard to raise money as I thought. I spent a lot of it in the wrong places. I wish I would have known where to spend money. I wish I would have followed up on relationships that I built in the beginning. It was hard to go back later and maintain some of the relationships that I had started to build. You knock on doors to get elected, but if you don't go back and sort of kind of establish relationships, people think that you don't care about them. They're like, oh, you're like every other politician, you just wanted my vote, so we only see you at election time. Mm-hmm. And so I wish I had documented better in the beginning. I'm better at it now, but I wish I had been better at it at the beginning, really documenting. I have a document of doors that I knocked on, but not particularly what that person asked me about, so I could follow up with those people. And I wish I had done that, because I did care. I didn't keep a great record. And then when you don't show up again for 4 more years, people, you're like everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. People see you when it's election time.
So if you were going to advise someone, if another woman would come to you and say, I'm thinking about running, what would be your best advice
do
to
it.
her?
Do it. I would say do it. If you're questioning it, if you're like, whatever question you're having, it doesn't matter what the question is. It doesn't matter if you're like, I don't know if I have enough time. I don't know if I have enough support. I don't know if I have enough education or qualifications. Do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it. Because if you do it and you don't get elected, you didn't fail. If you do it and you do get elected, oh my gosh, what you're going to learn and the impact you're going to be able to make. All I wanted to do, I'm very much, and I told Barbara this, oh my gosh, and I live by this all the time. I'm still like a dreamer. So I still very much believe in people, right? I believe in people. And I keep thinking I'm going to get to this point where I hate people. I meet people my age and they're like, I don't even like people anymore. But I believe in people. I think people matter. And I think that people need advocacy. And I think in the world right now, we're lacking social responsibility. So if you could help people be an advocate and you could have your own social responsibility and hold yourself a little bit to a higher standard, there's at least one person watching you. If you could leave the place that you live 1% better than you found it, do it. Because no matter what you do, you're not failing. No matter what happens, no matter what the outcome is, you didn't fail. You learned something either way. There is no failure in putting your name out there at all, ever. You will meet people, you will build relationships, you will learn more than you knew. You will learn how your city, your town, or your county, or your state runs. So even personally, you will learn more than you knew before you started. There is no failure in trying. Do it. It's better for you, for your community.
So since you've been in the municipal association, have you gathered with other women who are also in your position and the coalitions?
It's hard. We do not have a leadership group. I'm trying to do that right now. We do not have a leadership group within the municipal association, and not shockingly, there isn't a ton of women. There are women, but if you walk into any one of our rooms, you're gonna have like 400 people, and like very small percentage, like 13 to 15% are women. There's not that many of us. We do tend to kind of cluster together and walk up and meet each other, but we do not formally have a leadership group. And we are women from different areas. Some of us live in more rural, some of us more metropolitan. So we do have a lot that we could share with each other to make our state in general better, which is why I do think no matter what you do, if you're on a Rotary Club, if you're on a junior league, no matter what you're in, whatever you're a part of, if you can find other women and get together and share thoughts and ideas, because we have a little bit less, this is going to sound so bad. I don't want it to sound bad, but sometimes men have a tendency to have more pride and ownership. They want to own it and they want it to be theirs and they want 100% of it. Where women, we tend to be like, well, I could get you 85% of the way there. Like, we're more willing to say like, well, let's see what we have in common. Let's find our common ground and see what we could achieve. Even if we could take 2 baby steps forward, let's take those 2 baby steps forward. Where men that I tend to deal with are like, I want all or nothing, which seems irrational to me. So you'd rather stay where you are and make 0 progress because you can't have all of it or credit for all of it. That seems nuts to me. But those are the men that are in your state that are representing your areas. And so I feel like if you can find women that are in whatever you're at work, our minds together, we're more collaborative. We find answers together. We are better at working together as a team, and we don't have as much. And I've worked in both. I have climbed a ladder next to men and I've climbed a ladder next to women. I will say climbing a ladder next to men is a different skill set. but climbing a ladder next to women is, especially if you are an encourager and you are a girl's girl, if you encourage other women and you're like, hey, women, come and follow me. That is my leadership style. I like to empower other women. A lot of women that I meet, because I surround myself with type A people. I don't know why that is, but I surround myself with type A people. And so they have a big problem delegating and like handing over anything. I'm like, I feel like if you can do something 80% as well as I can, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm a delegator. I'm like, if you can do it 80%, I'm a 80-80 rule. If you can do it 80% as well as I can, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the tools to achieve it well, because I want you to be a leader too. I feel like if you just are always the leader and you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're going to have a whole bunch of followers. You're enabling a whole bunch of followers. So you're not making other leaders. You're making followers.
Have you found that sometimes if you do take on that leadership role, and I'll say this outright about a lot of women and men, if they find someone who will do it for them, they would rather sit back and let you keep doing it,
Men will
whether they like it or not, but they want you to keep doing it so they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it took 10 years to give up the presidency of AAUW Rock Hill because I couldn't, until I threatened, when I did say I'm quitting, this is it, I'm done, and they were going to have to close it down. Then people started stepping up and wanting to say, I'll take over and I'll do. But if we continue to allow ourselves to be used that way, then you are not teaching and helping people grow. And sometimes
if you I'll take it back to like a HOA, right? Like a homeowners association. Women in leadership will take a leadership role for one of two reasons. We take a leadership role because we want to make a difference. We see something that we want to change, and we're like, oh, well, I can do that. Or you want a position of power, and men typically want a position of power, and women typically want to change something that they don't like. And we don't rely on other people to change it for us. We'll go change it. Men will sit in that seat and say they want the recognition for that seat, and they want the power for that seat, and they're willing to just sign whatever comes across them and do the bare minimum, and see students truly run the world. I mean, bare minimum people can truly run the world. Women are go-getters and doers. Women can pick up a mountain and move it and still not know their value or their ability. They'll still ask for less money. They'll still, one of the, statistics of women making 70% of every dollar that a man makes has less to do with a company paying it and more to do with women don't ask for raises. Women don't ask for more money. Women will ask for the bottom of the pay band. And Barbara, one of the things that she said to me that I hear all the time is men will look in the mirror and put on a tie and say, I should run for Congress. Absolutely. He won't even have pants on, and he'll be like, I should run for Congress. No, doesn't have to care about his state, community, no nurturing, no caring, no forethought, just like, yeah, I could run, I could do that.
Yep, been there, done that. Are there any other questions? We got about 10 more minutes. They always say politics is political. And I truly believe that. I actually did not go to a second date with a man because he said he never voted. And you said, my vote doesn't count. And I looked at him and I said, you obviously don't understand politics. Because if you did understand politics, you would know that your vote counts for Senate, Congress, local, state, all of those elections. Yes, the president is done with the electoral college. I said, but all the other positions are your vote counting. And I never went out with him again because, politically, he wasn't intelligent enough to figure that out. And I personally think all children should start taking civics in the first grade, with their senior year taking constitutional law. So they go out into the world and understand how local, county, state, federal government works. You can't do that if you don't you don't vote intelligently if you don't understand that you don't personally handle abortion. And your opinion on abortion is irrelevant to what you're doing. But they want to do that because they want to see if you're going to follow their moral compass. And that's irrelevant when it comes to running the county city council, or in some cases, now it is important when you're on the state level, but on city and county council, that's irrelevant. But that's where all the things go.
A lot of times too on a state level, because I do also sit, I am my precinct's president in the Berkeley County GOP.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay a member of that organization. It's difficult.
Particularly as a woman.
It's hard. It's hard. And the chair is a client of mine. And I have clients in both local parties. And I think at the end of the day, like, I will tell anybody running for whether it's partisan or nonpartisan, if you're running for state and you're a House or Senate, it seems to be more important to get funding and to toe the party line. That seems to be more important in our state, which is sad and unfortunate to me, because you're not representing your party, you're representing the people. And the people in that party do not fit in a box, especially more now than ever. 40, 50 years ago, people fit in that box a little bit better. That box, very few people fit in that box. The majority of people that I meet and deal with on a daily basis are either just right or left of center. And the people that sit in our state and our federal seats are far right or far left. So they don't really represent us anyway. And so I tend personally to care more about people that care about people.
Yeah.
When your taglines and the things that you say in your headlines are toting a party line, I tend to be fearful that you care very much about a party. And I know most of the people on here are probably looking at appointed or elected seats, which may be if you're county or you may be partisan or nonpartisan. I have to deal with everybody, and the way for me to do that is to at the end of the day is to always respect people. I do focus on our differences. I focus on and what we can agree on, the things that I'm not trying to sell you, and I don't need you to sell me. It's really more about your life experiences led you to where you are, and my life experiences led me to where I am, and us just having mutual respect for each other. Because of all of us on here right now, we threw all of our issues up in the air and we grabbed like our 2 or 3 that matter the most to us. Odds are they wouldn't be the same, and that's okay. It's okay that the things that matter to us aren't the same. What matters is that we respect each other, and we respect that we all have different experiences and different backgrounds, and we come from different places. And that's why we're where we're at. And if you don't care about common ground, if you're the smartest person in the room and you don't care to ever be smarter or learn anything, you're probably ineffective as a legislator. If the people that you represent no longer in the front seat of your vehicle, and your personal agenda is now in the front seat, you're probably ineffective as a legislator. So, and that's probably when it's time for you to not be a legislator, or for you not to attempt to be a legislator. But if what you care about is people in your community and leaving things better than you found them, you probably could be really effective as a legislator.
Good points. Jan Bates said that as a woman in construction, she thinks it was nice to hear from a woman in another male-centric environment. And I agree. It's difficult enough to do what we do, but to do it in a male-centric environment, it's very, very difficult. Now, I don't know that I would have the grace and the brain sometimes to not open my mouth and tell them that, would you ask somebody else to sit and look pretty and put their lipstick on? But I would probably have flipped out on him, but that's neither here nor there. But thank you again for all your hard work, and I hope you continue to be in the public life. I hope you look to do something a little bit more in the public life. Your work with the police officers is great. We have something similar to that here in Rock Hill that we support and do. So because we believe in teaching people that police are not all bad guys and they don't do bad things. They do good things a lot of times. So I commend you on that. Emily, have you got any announcements or anything that you want to let everyone know about?
I'm going to post some links in the chat, and those are related to more in 2024. So it is our project to triple the number of women who are running for elected and appointed office this year. And Melissa is actually a big help with that. She's one of our regional outreach directors, so she's helping us recruit women in the Low Country. But we have all kinds of resources. We have self-paced courses on elected and appointed office you can work your way through. We have a campaign toolkit. So basically kind of took the things that like Melissa found in her book and broke down what you need to be working on month by month, and includes things like lawn sign templates and budget templates. And we're also offering office hours. Those are 1 hour deep dives. We do Wednesdays at lunchtime on things like campaign finance and developing your message and networking to help you navigate the process.
Thank you. All right, ladies. Well, hopefully we will see you soon again, and have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.